It's already pretty tough to find parking here in New York, and it's about to get a lot harder.
Horns honking, drivers outraged as a double-parked van on West 68th Street brought traffic to a standstill. The time has come for the city to eliminate free on-street parking.
Controversial new idea already has residents, commuters, and politicians taking sides.
It's going to be bad, yeah, bad for us.
I feel like they have enough bike lanes already.
588 people injured on e-scooters through July of last year, compared to 680 so far this year.
But thankfully, no lives were lost in this accident, which left 10 people injured.
So there are about 3 million parking spots here in New York City, and that might sound like a lot, but when you consider that 4.4 million cars a day drive through the city, the parking nightmare that is New York City will start to make a lot of sense. And if you think it's bad now, just you wait. Because the city of New York has a plan to remove thousands of parking spots from the street, and this is kind of a big deal. New York is already America's most expensive city, and we're talking $5,600 a month rents for apartments, and it's also one of the most expensive places to own a car if you're not already paying a premium for a parking spot in a garage, which here in Midtown will run you $400 or more a month. And then there's the occasional traffic ticket that you get. That was an undercover cop. On top of that, New York City experiences about 100,000 auto accidents a year, which is why insurance is through the roof. And insurance costs New Yorkers $1,900 a year on average. And in just a couple months, the city's gonna be rolling out new congestion pricing fees to cut down on traffic, but those are gonna result in drivers having to spend about $4,000 extra a year if they drive into the city 5 days a week. And with all of these fees making it as hard as possible for average New Yorkers to own a car, the last thing people need is for the city to take away the free parking like that right there. So why is that something the city wants to do? You'll be surprised.
This is the heart of Midtown. It was 5:30 Tuesday evening, the height of evening rush hour. Sidewalks and crosswalks crowded with pedestrians trying to get home. That's when this accident struck.
So as you can see, New York City is full of cars and it's full of people. And according to Forbes, 9% of car accidents involve a pedestrian, and most accidents are caused by distracted driving. And the reason this is a problem is because as New York City becomes less and less car friendly, the roads are going to become narrower, there's going to be more and more people on the streets, and accidents involving pedestrians may increase. Especially when you consider that the unlimited Metro card for unlimited subway and bus service is less than $1,600 for an entire year. That's way cheaper than all the extra fees associated with driving. Plus, you don't have to worry about parking, which is about to get a lot harder.
It was very quiet, so I didn't hear the crash.
You can see the car as it slowly goes up onto the curb and makes its way into the subway station. People walking by had no idea what was going on.
Isn't that crazy? That driver drove their car into the mouth of a subway entrance, trapping people inside and trapping themselves inside the vehicle. Maybe they thought it was the entrance to a parking garage. Either way, nobody was hurt, but that can't be said for many of the accidents that happen by sidewalks or near intersections. During rush hour, everyone on the street, cars and pedestrians included, are anxious to get where they're trying to go. Like, you got cars going this way, people going that way. It's like a big maze of everybody trying to watch out for each other. You drive?
Yes.
Is it hard to find parking?
Yes.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Do you park for free or do you pay?
You have to always pay. Yeah,
cool.
Either meter.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You can be in my video. And although human behavior is the reason you have so many accidents, the city thinks that removing parking spaces is going to limit the number of those accidents. And here's how they're going to do it. Well, I guess that's how you remove broken glass from a window. Anyways, this right here is 8th Avenue. And you can see that many of the parking spaces here have been eliminated, and that's being done on purpose to protect people as they cross the street. As you can see here, when people walk across the street, they're no longer stepping out into oncoming traffic. You go from the sidewalk, through the bike lane, through another safe area, and then you're across. And if cars like this silver one here want to make the turn, they have to go all the way to the edge and make a slow 90-degree turn to stay on the actual, That could have been a problem if the car were going faster, but it wasn't. It had to slowly pull out and make that turn. Not only does this give pedestrians more room to maneuver, but it makes it easier for drivers to spot them, which is why eliminating parking spots near intersections is something the city wants to do. No one's technically supposed to be parked on this side, and as you can see, this car has the boot on it, and I'm pretty sure this tow truck is gonna take it somewhere where it will never be seen again. And you see this green path over here? This is actually the bike lane. So you've got pedestrians, bikes, and cars all on the same road. And believe it or not, 6% of car accidents involve a cyclist, which essentially means drivers have their hands full keeping an eye out for 20-mile-an-hour bike traffic and also 1 to 2 mile an hour pedestrian traffic. And while it might seem like extra large sidewalks and bike lanes and narrower roads are gonna be better at keeping people safe, critics say that because the roads are now narrower and cars have less space to maneuver, things could actually be more dangerous for everybody.
Bicycle lane is being added to one of New York City's busiest avenues.
And as CBS 2's Dave Carlin shows us, at 10 feet across, it'll be among the widest bike lanes in the city.
So as the city continues its progressive infrastructure push, there's gonna be winners and there's gonna be losers. And that's because bike lanes in a lot of areas are getting even wider. This is a 2-bike lane with barriers like this to keep the cars out. And there's not a whole lot of bikes using this yet, but as this continues, there will be. You can see the effect it's already having on traffic, these narrower roads. And believe it or not, these license plate readers right here, those are the congestion pricing readers. And all of the parking spots that were there have been removed completely. Across the street, you can see they managed to keep a couple of them. And you see how this island kind of sticks out into what could have been a parking spot? Well, that's gone too. And the first problem with these expanded bike lanes is that by encouraging bike traffic, you actually put pedestrians in quite a bit of danger. Yes, getting hit by a truck is definitely going to be worse than getting hit by a bike, but cyclists in bike lanes like this will often just go right through a red light, continue right through the street. That's so common. But that's not the only problem. Riding on the sidewalks, going the wrong way, down a bike lane, all of these are issues that come with increased bike traffic and not with increased auto traffic. The cars, they have to obey the lights, but the bikers, not so much. That light is green, he's clear. Also, most cyclists do not have mirrors, which means they can't look behind them or to the sides when they make an evasive maneuver. And look, that light's red. That guy just went right through. There's no enforcement of any of the bike rules. There's a lot of enforcement for car rules. You're gonna get a ticket, you got a plate, you can get caught. Bikes don't have plates, they just ride and that's it.
These scooters are getting faster and more powerful.
588 people injured on e-scooters through July of last year, compared to 680 so far this year. That's a double-digit increase.
Okay, now that video just mentions e-scooters, and it correctly points out that as their usage goes up, so do accidents, but you can apply the same logic to all the traffic in the bike lane. And a lot of this bike lane traffic can be incredibly unpredictable. Wow. That was just, we're not gonna have less accidents, no way. Another issue is that if you're a pedestrian walking through a bike lane, some of the electric bikes and skateboards don't really give off a whole lot of noise. Which means that if you step out into one of these, there's not a whole lot of audible warning unless they have a horn, which they don't all do. And it's nice that there's a barrier over here keeping cars out of the bike lane, but there's also no barrier to stop pedestrians from showing up in the lane. Oh, these guys are all going the wrong way, all three of them. And look, I ride a bike too, and pedestrians in the bike lane, that's also a problem. But we've got more pedestrian traffic now and more bike traffic. And with cars, you hear the noise of the tires, the engine, but an electric bike or an electric skateboard, you don't really hear anything, especially over the noise of all the other vehicles on the road. And this is all happening on 10th Avenue, which isn't even that busy. Wait till you see what the busy areas look like. Now we're in Hell's Kitchen. There's a ton of restaurants over here, lots of bike traffic, and this area is an absolute nightmare for pedestrians. And for cyclists, you've got so many restaurants all over the place that there's like no room for them either, and there's a lot of them. And that's because this is like a whole restaurant row. Everything here serves food. And think of how dangerous this is for the delivery folks. They've got bike traffic flying by here, then they got the cars on the other side of the truck, and at night, when this area is full of people eating at the restaurants, things get even crazier. Like, look at this, we've got people walking in it. The sidewalks are way too narrow. There's way more cars on the road because it's now narrower, and that's gonna cause congestion, traffic jams, and accidents. Red light, look, everyone's going. And the other issue here is that the police don't really have a plan to deal with any of this nonsense at the moment. Look at that guy, he's on a motorcycle in the bike lane. Now, if you're a pedestrian, you're supposed to obey the walking signal right there. Cars have the traffic signal, and I guess technically if you're on a bike, you're supposed to obey that, but it's not really happening. Now, this isn't the fault of the police. They're super short-staffed right now, and New York City's budget cuts are probably gonna reduce their numbers further. And if the streets are now less safe, has it really made sense to remove parking spots in an attempt to make them safer? Critics of these plans say no, it doesn't, and they say that it also hurts the neediest of New Yorkers who rely on street parking the most. So the reason removing all the street parking is bad for regular New Yorkers is because they might need a car more than you might think. That's because rents are absolutely out of control. If you want to live in a little apartment around here, you'll be paying like $4 grand a month for a 1-bedroom or a studio. And don't even get me started on the crazy prices of these luxury buildings. Basically, living in Midtown is impossible unless you're super rich or you're just living by yourself. The only way for families to get here is if they have a car. And that's because it costs just as much to rent a studio or a 1-bedroom here as it's gonna cost to rent a 3 or a 4-bedroom really far away, deep in Brooklyn or Queens, where you're effectively so far away from the trains that you wouldn't be able to earn a living unless you had a car to drive yourself into wherever it is you work. And this building right here, a tiny 2-bedroom, 2-bath. This is less than 1,000 square feet, $5,400 a month. And that's for 2 small rooms that'll fit like a full bed, maybe a queen, and a tiny little living room. A 3-bed in a place like that, you'd be looking at $6 grand plus. And because rent's so expensive, it might be cheaper to live far away in a transit desert where there's no train for a 15 or 20-minute walk and to drive into the city. And look, you see all those signs right there? None of this is parking, but there is a garage over here, but that's gonna cost an extra couple of $100 a month on top of the rent you're already struggling with, because this is New York. And most of the traffic you see on the sidewalks and on the streets, these are people who work here, not necessarily people who live here. Look, this person right here got a ticket. That's gonna be expensive. Removing all the parking spots, that's not gonna affect rich New Yorkers. They've already got a garage. It's gonna hurt the people who are already having a tough time affording the city as it is. But what do you think? Does New York have too much parking? Not enough parking? Let me know. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.